So the prize for the most corrupt FBI agent out of all the corrupt FBI agents associated with this fednapping of Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Drum roll, please. This award goes to the special agent in charge of the case. His name is Stephen D'Antuono. Who is Stephen D'Antuono? Stephen D'Antuono was the agent in charge of the Detroit field office, which means he was everyone's boss. The buck stops with him. He has his finger in everything because he is in charge of every operation in that region. Now, Stephen D'Antuono, you can see him on the screen right here. You will see what this headline says. Stephen D'Antuono was Detroit's top FBI agent, but he was promoted to head the DC field office. Now, this is a real head scratcher to me because I can think of only a handful, and I say this laughingly because the FBI is so corrupt. I can think of only a handful of operations run by the FBI that has brought more shame and embarrassment to the FBI than this botched fednapping of Governor Gretchen Whitmer. And of course, the examples that I'm thinking of that are more embarrassing and more destructive to the reputation and the integrity of the FBI are the raid on Mar-a-Lago and that the FBI staged, and the Russia collusion hoax that the FBI staged, and the way that they went after General Michael Flynn. And that's just within the last 5 years. However, this just about takes the case for one of the worst. And you would think that the man who was in charge of it would be fired. You'd think that this guy would be demoted. And that's like at the least. I mean, if you work in the private sector and you botch something up like this, you get kicked out of the company. But no, at the FBI, you get promoted. Promoted from the Detroit field office, the head of that office, to DC. The head of the DC field office is one of the most prestigious positions in the field at the FBI. This is a humongous promotion. He was promoted after we knew that he had botched up the Gretchen Whitmer case. And coincidentally, look at the date on that article that I showed. What does it say? It says October 13th of 2020. Okay, so D'Antuono moved from Michigan to Washington, D.C. 3 months before January 6th. Is there a connection? Well, I'll let you decide. You'll remember that on January 6th, when those protesters breached the barriers that had already been moved outside of the Capitol and entered the Capitol Police actually opened the doors for them. Now, this was very strange. We all thought, oh, the mainstream media reported that these people broke in. But if you watch the video, you'll see police officers actually opening the door for the protesters. Now, in 2020, you'll also remember at the Michigan State Capitol, there were armed protesters that breached the Capitol. Now, this was the same sort of propaganda operation that the mainstream media and the Democrats tried to use that for. They tried to associate anybody who was against vaccine mandates or mask mandates or lockdowns. They tried to associate us with armed protesters who breached the Michigan State Capitol. But what's interesting is video from the Michigan State Capitol when this was happening shows the police officers who were protecting the Michigan State Capitol doing the same thing as the Capitol Police, opening the doors for the protesters. In fact, the FBI told them to. The FBI directed the police officers to open the door for the armed protesters. That's a pretty strange coincidence that would happen in Michigan when Stephen D'Antuono was in charge of the Detroit field office, and then it would happen again at the Capitol when the Capitol Police opened the doors, when Stephen D'Antuono was then head of the DC field office. This seems like more than a coincidence. It seems like a modus operandi. It seems like a deliberate strategy that was used twice. What would be interesting to know is who exactly made the call in Michigan on that day, who gave the direction to the police officers to open the doors for the armed protesters. And on January 6th, likewise, who exactly gave the order for the Capitol Police to open the doors for the protesters? The answer to that question will tell us even more than what we're being told in testimony on the stand right now at the retrial of some of these defendants.